As we get to the end of summer and fall is just around the corner, it's time to get ready for fall gardening. This is my first video in a series about fall garden planting. Today, I'm going to talk about what kinds of plants you can grow in your fall and winter gardens, and also when you should start planting those. And I'm going to give you 3 veggies that are perfect for first-time fall vegetable gardeners. Stick around. This is In the Garden. Thanks for joining me. Whether you're a new viewer or a returning subscriber, I'm glad you're here. This is In the Garden, where I share tips and tools to help new gardeners be successful in backyard vegetable gardening. Today, I'm talking about fall gardening, specifically what to plant in your fall garden and when to start planting it. Hopefully you had some great success with your summer garden, but just because summer's coming to an end doesn't mean it's time to stop gardening. Fall brings a whole new experience to gardening. It's a really great time to continue learning and to grow a lot of things that you can't grow during the summer because it's just too hot. The most common question I hear from beginner gardeners about fall gardening is, what can I grow? But fall gardens can be filled with so many wonderful things, and a lot of them will grow into the winter and even through the winter with just a little extra care. I'm going to share some common fall garden crops that will grow really well here in the desert, and I'm going to point out 3 that are perfect for beginners that I would recommend all beginners try when planting their first fall garden. And I'm going to discuss when you should start planting these. So let's get to it. Fall garden planting is really about cool season crops. Much of what you can grow during the early spring, you can also grow during the fall as it starts to cool down. Some common plants to try in your fall garden are leafy greens, such as lettuce, kale, or spinach. Also, root crops like potatoes, carrots, beets, and turnips. Also things like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, chard, peas. Those are all really great choices for fall gardening. And a couple you may not have even considered are cilantro and some herbs like parsley and sage and oregano. Those can all grow really well in your fall garden. So that's kind of an overview of the types of things that you can plant in your fall gardens. But if you're a new gardener or you're planting your first fall garden, you're probably looking for a little bit more guidance on what you should actually plant in your garden. So I'm going to share the 3 things that I recommend all new gardeners or first-time fall gardeners plant in their gardens. First are leafy greens, things like lettuce, spinach, and kale. These grow really well during the fall. One of the best things about these specific leafy vegetables is that they grow really fast and you can continue to have an abundant harvest throughout the entire growing season. With these leafy vegetables, it's possible to go out and just harvest a few of the most mature leaves from each of your plants and let the rest of the plant continue to grow and mature. You can continue to do this as the plant grows. Just keep picking the leaves off and harvesting the mature ones. It's kind of like having your own salad bar, just growing continually in your yard. If you go out and harvest, if you have enough plants, you can have fresh salad almost every day throughout the fall and even into the winter. And aside from when it gets really cold, like below freezing, these leafy green plants, they're actually going to grow really well during the really cold weather. So they'll grow even throughout the winter. Leafy greens are a crop I would definitely recommend for all beginner gardeners and all those planting their first fall garden. The next one is peas. Snap peas grow really fast and they continue growing throughout the growing season. Much like leafy greens, you'll be able to get an abundant harvest by going out and just picking the mature ones throughout the entire season. The plant will just keep growing more and more peas that you'll be able to have throughout the fall and into the winter. Peas are a really tasty thing to grow in your garden. They can be used in all sorts of recipes, things like stir fry or tossed into a fresh salad that you also grew in your garden, or even just eaten fresh as a little snack. Definitely don't pass on planting peas in your garden. The third crop I would recommend is cilantro. Cilantro is probably the most common plant that new gardeners try to grow in the wrong season. Since it's associated with summertime, salsa, and barbecues, many people think that cilantro needs warm weather to grow, but it's actually a cool season crop. If you tried to plant cilantro in your summer garden, it probably grew really well at first, but as soon as we got the first heat wave, it probably went straight to seed. This is called bolting. This is what a lot of cool season crops do when it gets too hot. The plant decides that it's time to start focusing on growing seeds. So the plant will stop growing and just focus all its energy just to producing seeds. In the case of cilantro, this results in coriander. If you plant cilantro in your fall garden, you're going to have a lot more success. So whether you've tried it during the summer or not, I definitely recommend you give cilantro a try in your fall garden. Those are the 3 that I would recommend, not just for new gardeners, but also those that are planting a fall garden for the first time. Not just because they grow fast, they're easy to grow, and they're delicious, but also those 3 do really well when started indoors, which is actually really important when planting a fall garden in the desert. And I'll explain why in just a minute. And if you want to, just go ahead and try any of those other cool season crops that I mentioned earlier. Those are also good for your garden, but not necessarily the 3 that I would recommend for beginners. But they all do well. If you want to try some, definitely give any of those a try. So now let's discuss when to start planting your fall garden. Knowing when to start a fall garden in the desert can be a little bit tricky. Our weather usually stays hot until, middle of September, but sometimes it's hot well into October. And even more often, it gets hot and cold, and then hot again, and cold again, and hot again, and then maybe cold again, before finally staying cool sometime in October. For this reason, sometimes it's difficult to plant directly in your garden bed. This is why starting with crops that can be started inside is actually the best way for new gardeners or those planting a fall garden for the first time. I recommend starting seeds indoors with a target of transplanting them outside of maybe the first week of October. Most seeds, they need 6 to 8 weeks before they're ready to move outside. So this would mean you want to start planting inside around the first couple weeks of August. Don't stress out though if you're running late. Just go ahead and start planting now or as soon as you can. And then move your plants outside as soon as the weather starts to cool down and stay cool consistently. If you're going to try planting some of the root crops like potatoes or beets, you're actually going to need to plant those directly into your garden bed. Those don't start inside and then transplant well. You can do that, but ideally you'll want to plant those directly in your garden bed. Just wait until the weather starts to cool and stay cool consistently, and then go ahead and plant those directly into your garden bed. Regardless of what you're going to plant and whether you're starting it inside or planting directly in your garden, you're going to want to plant as early as possible, but be prepared to plant again should we get a late season heat wave. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this is just my first video in a series on fall gardening. So be sure to watch all the videos as they come out to help you be successful in your fall gardens. And leave me a comment and let me know what you're planning on growing in your fall garden this year. And as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. And if you want to get more content like this, more videos to help you be successful in your backyard garden, make sure you subscribe so you can get all my latest videos. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.